It's time to lock in. We're talking SEC, college football, and more. This is AP as we see it.
I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I'm all about that action. I said I'm all about that action.
I'm AP Stedham from LA, Lower Alabama. This is AP as we see it, a weekly syndicated show discussing the Southeastern Conference, college football, always keep an eye on the national scene and other sports. We'd like to welcome you to another edition of AP as we see it. We'd like to direct our audience to the social media platforms on Facebook, on Instagram, and X account. That's at AP as we see it, and also at AP Stedham. Our YouTube channel is at AP as we see it. You can find the video broadcast of the show, and of course on Spotify. Everything is archived as well as on the YouTube channel. And we're on syndicated stations around the Southeast, so you check your local listings. It's played on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. And like I said, if you want to listen on Spotify at any time, that's recorded, so it's archived, and you can check that out as well. We want to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, Greer's 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi. Lucy's Recipes, she's very famous for those recipes. You can buy her book online or in the store. Check those out. They have the groceries to go that delivers to your home, your office, the venues for all these Southeastern Conference and college football games coming up. I know that people are having parties, and if you can't make it down to a location, one of the 29 locations, you can click on groceries to go and have them delivered. Please check the weekly specials online. They also have the coloring contest monthly for the children. I know they enjoy those things. And then for special occasions, the holidays, the birthdays, the anniversaries, there's always some specials involved, from fresh produce to dinner essentials, delicious food and snacks at unbeatable prices. And then this is the month August for produce. So very special month at Greer's right now. So, and remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. That's right. Greer's got it. They guarantee it. We also would like to thank the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. They have the spacious rooms. They have the indoor pool with the tropical setting. It's right in the heart of Atlanta. There's restaurants at the hotel, gift shop, outstanding buffet breakfast, and they cook to order on weekends. So check out the Cortland Grand Hotel, Ben Giacomo and staff. They offer tremendous hospitality, parking there. And as I said, it's right in the heart of Atlanta, close to everything. So those are our two sponsors, Greer's Markets and Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. We want to tell you about our guests this week. Segment 2 and 3 coming up will be Jeff Culhane, the voice of the Florida State Seminoles. And the reason we're having Jeff on our show is because Alabama will face the Florida State Seminoles in Tallahassee. That's a critical, what we call pendulum game. It's the SEC versus the ACC, and those two teams have not met very many times. This will be the sixth time those two blue blood type programs compete against each other. So that'll be segment 2 and 3 with Jeff Culhane, the voice of the Florida State University Seminoles, and then segment 4 we're going to have Zach Smith. And Zach is the beat writer for the Waco Tribune-Herald, covering the Baylor Bears. Auburn University will play the Baylor Bears on Friday, August 29th. So that's one of the better games that evening, actually. So Auburn, they're trying to revive that program, and it's very important for them with Jackson Arnold as a transfer quarterback from Oklahoma. And he's from Denton, Texas. At high school, anyway. He wasn't born in Texas, I don't believe, but he played at a high school in Denton, Texas. So it's right nearby. He'll have a lot of fans there in Waco, I'm sure. And if you're Auburn, you're trying to gain some momentum after some very difficult seasons, and you've been struggling for a few years. So it's an SEC team versus a Big 12 team. You're playing a Power 4 team. So it's important to you, Auburn University, to win those types of games in your non-conference schedule, but it also helps the conferences down the road in the college football playoff when they're determining the strength of schedule. So if you can win those games for your conference and your team, it's a double win, actually. for your conference and for your team. So it adds a lot to your program. Everybody gets excited. You're starting the new year with a road victory against a P4 Big 12 team. Baylor has a good program. Dave Aranda is a defensive minded coach. He's the head coach for the Baylor Bears. And then you have Hugh Freeze, offensive minded coach. So it's a very good matchup. And right now, Auburn is a slight favorite, 1.5 points, 2.5 points, 2 points, whichever line you're looking at to make your wager. But two teams that are trying to get off to a good start, representing their conference, and it could be a springboard effect for Auburn if they can win that ball game out in Waco, Texas, a road victory. You're favored, so somebody believes in you right now, and I think it's because probably of Jackson Arnold and his set of receivers. There's some talent there. Jackson Arnold has proved he can be a good quarterback, but he's just having a reset at Auburn. His experience at Oklahoma didn't go as planned. He was a highly recruited quarterback, one of the tops in the country, but now he's at Auburn University, and they're playing Baylor that first game on a Friday evening. So we wanted to preview those teams that will be playing Auburn and also Alabama. So that's why we have those two guests. Alabama playing at Florida State. They're coming off a season. There was a slight disappointment. Did not make the playoffs. Only 3 teams from the SEC earned a berth, according to the selection committee. So it's very important for Alabama to travel down to Tallahassee and win that game, because if they lose that game, there's a lot of positive by beating Florida State, even though they had a disastrous season last year. But if there's a loss to open this season by Kalen DeBoer and company, you're going to hear those drums of dissent and doubt. They're going to be very loud and reverberate, not only in the Southeast, but around the country, that Alabama might be in trouble because a team like Alabama, with their roster, I believe they're going to be favored and they should win that ball game, but anything could happen. Gus Malzahn is the offensive coordinator now for the Florida State Seminoles, and he has had success against Alabama. Different coaching staff, of course. He competed against Nick Saban, but I believe he was 3-5 against Nick Saban, which is more than most teams against Nick Saban at the time when he coached at Alabama. So Gus Malzahn, he likes to run his quarterback, that option quarterback, and we all know that of all the things in college football that you're trying to corral, those mobile quarterbacks, because you can call the perfect defense, but you still have to stop and make the play. And those quarterbacks, some of them are fast, some of them are big, some are both, some are elusive. But Thomas Castellanos was at Central Florida with Gus Malzahn, and a couple years at Boston College. He's confident, and he instills confidence in his teammates, which he did earlier this summer by making some remarks about Alabama and the chances at Florida State. He thought they should win the ball game. So, that's I embrace those things. I don't take that very seriously, and that's just all in fun. And it was, I think, set in June, and there's not much happening at that point. So I don't mind a player making that type of comment. But also, Ty Simpson, his first start, it's on the road in Tallahassee. There'll be a lot of fans there because Alabama, I'm not sure. I'm trying to think. I'm not sure in that series if they've played it in Tallahassee, actually. The last time was in a neutral site game, and before that it was a neutral site game in Jacksonville. So I'm not sure if Alabama's ever actually visited Tallahassee. We'll try to find out for you, of course, but it's an SEC opponent versus the ACC. It's another pendulum type game that will help you down the road with your strength of schedule. And if you're trying to make the college football playoffs, of course, the committee takes a look at those teams. If Florida State ends up having a good year and challenging Miami and Clemson and other teams in the ACC, that will bode well not only for Alabama, but the SEC if they come out with a victory. And like I said, remember, Ty Simpson, his first start, he's going to be on the road. Rabid fans, boisterous fans, vociferous fans down in Tallahassee. Alabama will have a strong contingent of people attending the game and cheering on the Crimson Tide, but it's a big moment for the head coach of Alabama to take his team to Tallahassee one of the outstanding places to watch a game in all of college football. And he has this quarterback that's been there for several years, trying to make a name for himself and garner the attention, not only for Alabama, but he wants to be confident for his team and come away with a victory in the very first game and his very first start. So, but anyway, we want to talk to those two guests today. Jeff Culhane will be in segment 2 and 3, the voice of the Florida State University Seminoles. And then our last segment, we'll have Zach Smith from the Waco Tribune-Herald, who discussed the Baylor Bears and Auburn. I think that's probably the perfect road game for them. A team like Baylor, and Auburn's favored. So some people have confidence right now that Jackson Arnold and this receiving core and Hugh Freeze, he's on the hot seat. I think he's going to make a difference. So we're going to be right back after these messages and speak to our guest, a friend of the show, Jeff Culhane, the voice of the Florida State University Seminoles. We'll be right back after these messages with AP as we see it. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use groceries to go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it, and our very special guest, a friend of the show, Jeff Culhane, the voice of the Florida State University Seminoles. Welcome to another edition, Jeff, of AP as we see it. Great to have you here.
AP, it's always good seeing you and talking to you, my friend. And when I see that phone number pop up with a text message, I know it's got to be close to the season. College football right around the corner. So away we go. Let's have a little fun.
Yeah, we're trying to get educated. We always reach out to Jeff for sure. Hey, Jeff, what are some just your general impressions of this team? Of course, they haven't played anybody, but some things you like to tell people.
Well, yeah, this is a football team that is coming off of a mentally tough season a year ago in 2024. Yes. And, Florida State is a blue blood program in college football. I don't care what league you're talking about or what conference. This is a program and a brand that people recognize. And, it was just so surprising, AP, coming off of 19 wins in a row and a 13-win season in 2023. And, I thought Bruce Feldman really wrote a great piece on it, on why it happened. And you had a lot of things coming together all at once that really just put this team in tough spots and just unable to recover and slow down the snowball, if you will, rolling downhill a season ago. And so you got a new coaching staff. You've got some new coordinators in Gus Malzahn and Tony White, who are tremendous. I think Mike Norvell has done a fantastic job of addressing the questions of why last season happened in reestablishing his coaching staff a little bit, recalibrating that. And then 49 newcomers on this year's roster with a lot of guys that are, they're hungry. They want to have their chance to be the guy. And it's a group that has been force-fed a lot during fall camp. You hear the coaches talk about, hey, we're challenging our guys because we want to know what they can handle. Because right off the bat in game number one, an Alabama team comes to town that has a sense of urgency themselves coming off of last season. So we're going to find out a lot together, AP. I don't think even, either coaching staff is completely sure how it's going to look. And so that's what makes this matchup so much fun on August 30th.
Gus Malzahn, he has the familiar quarterback, Thomas Castellanos. He had him at Central Florida. So that's got to be a big positive for the team.
Well, he's a guy that was identified right away by Gus and Mike Norvell and Herb Hand, who came with Gus from UCF as the offensive line coach. And Tommy is a story of a young man who, in life, the road isn't always straight and smooth. And not that he has had a bad life or anything like that, but This is a guy that was born in Miami, grew up, played football in South Georgia, Ware County, in Waycross, Georgia, and he's gone through some tragedy in his life with his family and losing a father and losing a brother as well during his life, and so he's battled, and he was his eldest brother Akeem Jones passed December 27th of 2021. He lost his dad when he was 3 years old. He comes from a large family, the eighth of 11 kids. And so he has fought and found his way to Florida State, and he grew up as a Seminole fan. His cousin is Devontae Freeman, the great Florida State running back that played in the NFL and was a part of the 2013 national championship team here. And so, Tommy has fought. He has been through his share of adversity. And also, last year at Boston College certainly did not end the way that I think he would have liked how it went down. And there's a lot of reasons for why that happened with a new head coach and probably some miscommunication here and there in certain areas. But he's at Florida State now, and this was the place he wanted to be all along. And it's another example, AP, of a young man that has battled and found his way to the spot he always dreamed of being in.
Yeah, he's going to embrace this role. Full circle, the Florida State Seminole now. That's an awesome story. I love the way you told it, Jeff. And he has what my mother would say is some zest for life. He leaves it right out there, right on his sleeve. And I know he's made some comments about the Alabama game, but I think it's all in fun. I don't take that very seriously.
Yeah, the timing of it was the end of June. There's nothing going on, and so of course it's going to be brought up. And I think if it would have happened a week ago, it could have been lost in the news cycle a little bit. But nevertheless, to your point, AP, I thought Tommy addressed that very, very well at the ACC kickoff in Charlotte. We talked about trying to instill confidence into this team coming off of the tough season a year ago. Meant no disrespect, obviously, and Alabama will use it as motivation. You use anything as a competitor to get yourself ready to go and find an edge in a game like this, right? And so I think you said it right. He's embraced the opportunity to be the quarterback of the Florida State Seminoles, and he has come. He's all in. He's got 1 year. He's got one shot, and he's really embracing the role of being a leader. And Mike Norvell has loved the way he's attacked every single day, and we're hoping to see Tommy go out and play the way he's played versus Florida State, quite frankly, in the past. He's had a lot of success against the Noles. The 2 times he played against Florida State for BC.
Yeah, and it's a home game too. So, Jeff, these two teams haven't played very often. I guess it's 5 times. So, and they're neighbors, and that's when you look at that history of the series, you're kind of surprised, but they haven't played just as 5 times. And on the recruiting trail for years, they went against each other so many times.
Sure. Yeah, it's really interesting, and not much separates Tallahassee and Tuscaloosa. Just a few hours down the road, and you're right. It's the 6th meeting all time. Bobby Bowden, as long as he coached at Florida State, only coached against Bama once, and that was back in 2007 in FSU's lone win in the series, beating then first-year head coach Nick Saban in the most attended football game in the history of the city of Jacksonville in 07, winning that game 21-14. And so it is ironic you haven't seen these two programs play more, but that's how I think that's what you have with the two teams that are big brands in different conferences. And obviously there's a lot of history. I mean, you go back to all the successful and big names. I mean, I've looked back, AP, at the series history between these two programs, and one of the more iconic games, if you will, ended in a tie back in 1967 when Bear Bryant's Alabama team, second-ranked Crimson Tide, hosted a Florida State team at Legion Field in Birmingham, a 37-37 tie in that game. Kenny Stabler was the quarterback. The great Ron Sellers had a big game that day, 13 catches, 165 yards in the score. So you got all the huge names and certainly bragging rights on the line between these two teams and fan bases coming up next weekend.
Joe Gibbs told me a story. He was an assistant with that team, and then also the 70 USC team that came to town. So he had good fortune against Alabama. I think Bill Peterson was the coach. Is that
Yes,
right?
he
I
was.
think 67, right? Yeah, for sure. But Jeff, who are some of the playmakers? And we got about 3 minutes in this segment. Offensive playmakers we have to watch.
Yeah, Tommy will be throwing the ball to a host of new guys in the receiving core. And there are some younger guys that have a chance to step up and make some plays happen, AP. But the names you start with right away are Deuce Robinson, a USC transfer whose dad, Dominic, played for Bobby Bowden from 2001 to 2004. Squirrel White, Tennessee transfer. He's battled some injuries here in fall camp, but we're told he's going to be ready to go. He's number 7 on the all-time receptions list at Tennessee with 129. And if he can stay healthy, he's a home run threat every time he touches the football. A youngster by the name of Javen Boggs from Cocoa, Florida, true freshman, AP, is very interesting. Huge numbers in high school, a part of a great high school program at a Cocoa High, won state championships essentially every year, and was named Mr. Football his junior year in Florida, beating out a pretty darn good player himself and Jeremiah Smith, who's at Ohio State. And so Javen Boggs has got some spark to him as well, initially committed to Gus at UCF. And so, those are some of the newcomers with the wide receiving core that can make some plays. Randy Pittman's a UCF transfer from Panama City Beach, who I think fits extremely well in Mike Norvell and Gus's offense. And, the running back room, you've got a lot of guys that can help out, that can make some plays. Roydell Williams, who is an Alabama transfer, was banged up a year ago. He is back. Cam Davis out of Albany, Georgia. He's in his second year. He returns. We get Jalen Lucas back, who was the Big Ten returner of the year, return specialist of the year in 2022. He only played in 2 games a season ago, so he's got some big play capability. But everyone is really excited, AP, to see a young man by the name of Usman Kroma, true freshman running back who was committed to Georgia and flipped to Florida State late in the process. And Mike Norvell said he's the young man that he saw the most during his recruiting process of any player he's ever recruited. And so that paid off, obviously. And Usman Kroma, wearing number 32, is a young player, a true freshman that a lot of Florida State fans are excited to see.
Wow, we're going to have to watch out for him. Jeff, we're going to be back in a few moments to continue our discussion about some more of the offense and some of the defense and, of course, special teams in a tight ball game. Critical. So we're going to be right back after these messages with Jeff Culhane, the voice of the Florida State University Seminoles. So we'll be right back after these messages. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greers.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it, our very special guest, the voice of the Florida State University Seminoles, Jeff Culhane. And Jeff, we were discussing some of the playmakers on offense, wide receivers, running back. I can't remember if you mentioned the tight end yet. Have you mentioned that position yet?
Yeah, we talked about Randy Pittman briefly.
Pittman,
AP.
that's right.
He's going to be, he's listed as a tight end. He's almost like an H-back. I mean, they're going to utilize him in different areas on the field, move him around. He's got one of those builds at 6'2", 6'3", 240, and he can run where you can put him in mismatches against linebackers and safeties with his size and his speed. And so excited about him. Marquiston Douglas returns. He was at Florida State from 2022 through the 23 season, went to Arizona State last year, and now is back at Florida State once again. And then Landon Thomas and Amari Williams are 2 young players that played a lot as true freshmen a season ago that are now a year older. I think they've kind of figured a few things out. The game slowed down a little bit for them. Those are 2 sophomore tight ends who have a great chance to really help this team score some points.
Yeah, we love the tight end. That's the best mismatch if you have the right player. Yeah. The defensive back's too small and linebacker's not fast enough. So I love that matchup. On the defensive side, what's it looking like for some of the people who are going to get after the quarterback, Jeff?
Well, AP, the big change is the new defense under Tony White, and this is a coordinator who is one of the most well respected in college football right now. He's 46 years old. I think he's going to be a head coach sooner rather than later. I hope it's a little bit later. I'd like him to be in the Guardian Gold for a little while, but he is a guy that comes from the Rocky Long Tree 3-3-5 defense, unique
Okay.
look.
Yeah.
He's been around and been with some great coaching staffs. Herm Edwards, Marvin Lewis at Arizona State, was with Dino Babers at Syracuse, Matt Rule at Nebraska the last 2 years. And he, at Nebraska, they had defenses that were top 20 in college football. And I don't think they had top 20 talent
No.
overall front to back.
No.
And so
Yeah.
I think we're all really excited to see the change in the defense, see a more attacking style of defense and a different look. And I think what that style does is it provides different looks with where guys are lined up, moving around, and it keeps offenses on their heels, or at least that is the hope on game day, right? And so
Yes.
Tony White with a different look, and he's breathed, I think, new life into this defensive group after a really challenging season a year ago, coming off of a great 2023. And I think he's ratcheted up. If you've listened to him or heard him talk publicly, he makes no bones. I mean, he's got a high level of expectation, and nothing is handed to anybody. And that's been something that I think some of the players have needed to adjust to during fall camp. And some guys have taken advantage of that as well. So defensively, Earl Little Jr. is a name at the rover and safety position, who's also an Alabama transfer. His dad, Earl Little Sr., had a great career in the NFL. He's a guy that when he came to Tallahassee, they started him. He was at corner. Is he a safety? He kind of moved back and forth. He fits this position perfectly in this defense, and he has turned in to one of the top players defensively for this group. Another transfer that got here late after spring is Jerry Wilson, who was with Tony White at Syracuse for a couple of years and at Houston a year ago, an all Big 12 cornerback, and he's emerged as the vocal leader in the secondary in a short amount of time. And so those are two of the guys on the back end that have really stepped up and made some things happen. But I think everybody would tell you that Darrell Jackson Jr. at 6'5", 335 and runs like a linebacker. You play him at defensive tackle. He can play defensive end as well in this defense. They'll move him around quite a bit, and he's got first-round potential. It's just a matter of the light bulb turning on for him and he finding that consistency at playing at a high level.
He tilts the one side of the field, whatever side he's on, for sure.
I tell you, there's not many guys like him. I think back to some of the day, my previous stops and, at Nebraska, and Ndamukong Suh in 2009 was one of if he was the best player in college football, he was for sure the best defensive player in college football. And he had, transitioned himself where he was a part of Bill Callahan's staff, and then Bo and Carl Pelini came in and he came back to Nebraska, and they helped him take his game to another level. I feel like Darrell, who's been at Maryland, Miami, and now Florida State, he's gone through transition, now a new defensive coordinator. The hope is that Tony White and Terrence Knighton, his new defensive line coach, who was great at Nebraska as well and played in the NFL for a number of years, can really unlock the passion and can unlock the high expectation that's always surrounded Darrell and find the high level of results at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's an exciting player to watch. I mean, unique in college football, that size, that speed, that's very rare, and his versatility that you described. So, yeah, folks should look out for Darrell Jackson, 335 pounds, 6'5". I see you have some edge rushers that are transfer players, Jeff. What can you say about them?
Well, James Williams has had a tremendous camp. He came with Tony White and Terrence Knighton from Nebraska, and is a guy that makes plays off of the edge. He's 6'4", 6'5", 240 pounds. Probably closer to 260, actually, now that I think about it. And he's got long arms. He's athletic. He's fast. He's kind of got that quick twitch off the edge, and had some success in this 3-3-5 defense under Tony White a year ago for the Cornhuskers and their black shirt defense. So James Williams is a name to definitely keep an eye on. as a guy that can go out and make some plays in this defense and create some issues off the edge, AP. As far as some of the other names, Jason Jenkins out of Tennessee, played 20 games over 3 seasons there, and a guy from the Northeast out of New Jersey, and had a career-high 1.5 TFLs and a safety for the Vols at Oklahoma last year in Norman. And so he's a guy that was injured, missed the spring, but now has been back in fall camp and has done some very good things also as a transfer player coming off of injury. So those are a couple of guys I would say off the edge can definitely help this team and have an understanding of what it takes. But I think you'll see in this defense, the linebackers get involved. Omar Graham along the edge. Stephon Thompson's another name who is with Tony White for his entire collegiate career, Syracuse and at Nebraska, now a 6-year guy. Those are 2 guys that can fly around, make some plays. Justin Cryer, another name that I think has been very, very good as well. So you'll see some of the linebackers on the outside mix in and be guys that rush the quarterback as well in this defense.
Mm-hmm. Jeff, Gus Malzahn came into this program from Central Florida, and he was at Auburn and some other places. But is it going to be the Mike Norvell offense with a little flavor of Gus Malzahn? Some coaches, they don't want to change their offense; they just want to tweak it some.
Yeah, I think it's Gus's offense. I think this is Gus's show. I mean, Mike Norvell, who has called plays as a head coach his entire career, handed that off to Gus here this season. So it's the Gus Malzahn show on the offensive side of the football. And, obviously Alabama fans, when they think of Gus, there's a little bit of PTSD there from his time at Auburn, certainly with the success that some of Gus's offenses had versus Nick Saban. And not many had success against Coach Saban during his illustrious career at Alabama. And so, I think you go back and look at some of the old tapes of Gus's offenses and how they ran the football. That 2013 team ran for nearly 300 yards against Alabama, and Nick Marshall ran for 99 and a score. Jarrett Stidham ran it pretty well in 2017 against Alabama, and so did Bo Nix in 2019 against the Crimson Tide. And I think for Florida State fans, you followed Alabama defensively, and yes, they have been dominant. They've been amazing. They've been fantastic. But much like every team, it's tough to stop a mobile quarterback. And Tommy Castellanos can make a lot of plays with his legs and has done so impressively during his time at Boston College. And now we hope that's the case here at Florida State. And you hope that success carries over, AP, against an Alabama defense that wasn't great against the run last year and did give up some plays to running quarterbacks. I'm sure that's been pounded into their heads all fall camp about, what the expectation is in slowing down the rushing game and trying to slow down and attempt that against Tommy Castellanos. It's going to be a great chess match between Gus and also Kane Womack, a guy that Gus knows very well, coached him at Arkansas for a year when he was the OC there back in 2006.
Last minute, Jeff, the kicking game, as far as the tight ball game, what do you believe about the field goal kicker?
Well, Florida State has to replace 2 good ones, AP, and Ryan Fitzgerald, who's now with the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, and Alex Mastromano, who is a Ray Guy finalist. But I'll tell you what, Jake Weinberg is a redshirt freshman out of Boynton Beach, has a huge leg. He made field goals of 62 and 55 in a scrimmage this past Saturday, and he's got a chance to be one of the greats. Now, he's only a redshirt freshman, so we'll see how he does in actual game action. But he has been tremendous in camp, and I know our staff has, they're not afraid to throw him out there and give him a chance to put one between the pipes from 50-plus yards. And Max Cimento has also waited his turn. He's a veteran guy. He'll be the punter for this team moving forward, and a good competition there at that punting spot here in fall camp as well.
Hey, Jeff Culhane, voice of the Florida State University Seminoles. Thank you so much for being a guest on AP As We See It, and we'll see you down the road, and we'll be back after these messages. Hi, I'm AP Stedham for Greer's Markets. If you're planning a big party or for every day, shop at Greer's for delicious food, beverages, and snacks. Save time and money by checking on Greer's.com and use Groceries to Go to get your Greer's groceries delivered. Look at the weekly ad for more information. 29 locations in Alabama, Florida, and Mississippi, serving the region since 1916. Remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And we're back with AP as we see it, and a friend of the show, Zach Smith, Waco Tribune-Herald, the beat writer, covers the Baylor University Bears. Hey, Zach, welcome to AP as we see it.
Happy to be back. I loved doing it last year. I'm, like I said, happy to be back, happy to be talking about some football.
Yeah, for sure. Zach, one thing I noticed, I was slightly surprised that Auburn is a slight favorite for this game on Friday, August 29th. Did that surprise you, if so, or if not?
I mean, I think for me, it seems like it's been going back and forth. I think it's gone back and forth a couple times from the best I can tell.
Yeah.
Not particularly. I like some of the things that Auburn has done this offseason with, bringing in a new quarterback. I think the offense has potential, even if right now there are some struggles.
Yes.
And then you look at the Baylor side of things, and even as good as they finished the season last year, they won the last 6 regular season games and lost to LSU in the bowl game.
Right.
The defense was a huge question mark. And so I think you get, maybe a hopefully, you'd think it would be a resurgent Auburn offense against maybe a susceptible Baylor defense. And I can see how, this game can go back and forth. And I think it's going to be close either way. But yeah, it didn't really surprise me to see Auburn, favored at the moment. But I think that could change before kickoff.
Right. Two teams are trying to find themselves. Sawyer Robinson, good looking quarterback, over 3,000 yards, 28 TDs, 80 interceptions. He's going to have he could have a big year.
He's the dude. He's the real deal, man. Like, you want to talk about a quarterback with all the tools, and like, I know he's not being talked about right now in, Heisman level or first round draft pick, but like,
Yes.
I feel like he will be, especially, you think of year 2, Jake Spavital, the offensive coordinator at Baylor. This is his second year. And, you look back traditionally on year 2 in Jake Spavital's system, and you look at like Will Grier, Johnny Manziel, Geno Smith, some names like that really just in their second year just popped off the page. And like Sawyer Robertson, he was one of the top recruits. He was a 4-star recruit. Mike Leach wanted him in Mississippi State. He's from Lubbock. He really wanted to go to Texas Tech and play on that air raid. So, like I said, he's got all the arm skill, all the talent, and more than anything, he is a guy that people want to play for. He is the best leader. Any college or high school or professional person I've ever been around, people want to play for him just because he kind of exudes this leadership and confidence and all of that. So, like, man, the sky is the limit for Sawyer, and he's going to carry the Bears far, I think.
Yeah, I think he's going to have a nice year for them. And those are all the qualities you like in your quarterback, instilling confidence and playing with authority and not being, being fearful, not being afraid of anything.
Yeah, and he's got that. And like, he lost the last 2 quarterback battles that he's been at Baylor. He lost them both. And Baylor was kind of like people were questioning, like, what are we doing here? Obviously, this guy was waiting in the wings, and you picked quarterbacks twice over him. So there's some questions there of like, what is Dave Aranda? What is this coaching staff doing, kind of waiting so long to get to him? But now that they found him, they're pretty happy they found him.
Oh, yeah. Meant to stay fearless, by the way. But anyway, 2 recognizable names on the team: Kobe Prentice, the transfer from Alabama, and then Michael Trigg, tight end from USC and Ole Miss as well. So they're talented, 2 talented players.
And don't forget, I mean, I know that we're talking a lot about Sawyer here, but like for that first game against Auburn, their backup quarterback, Baylor's new backup quarterback, is Walker White,
I noticed that
coming from Auburn. So it's like, I know Kobe Prentice, he doesn't shy away. I wouldn't say, he doesn't say he doesn't like Auburn, but I think he said he never lost to Auburn during his time at Alabama. So I don't think he's really considers them a rival. So
Right.
But then they've got the secret agent. That's what I'm calling him, the secret agent. That is Walker White, to help them out.
Probably so. Yeah, I hear you. But yeah, I always liked Michael Trigg, the tight end. He was talented, and I always say this. People know they listen to me. I love the tight ends. That's the best matchup in football if you have the proper athlete.
And he's a huge dude, and he just like is a game changer. They have a lot. Their wide receiver room, Baylor's wide receiver room, is probably the deepest, one of the deepest they've ever had. But he's just a different dude. He's just a big dude, and he came up with some really clutch catches last year. I think back to the TCU game that they won on a last-second field goal. They went for it on 4th down, trailing by 6 points. And Michael Trigg was double covered over the middle, and he comes down with this ball. And this dude is he comes up with some clutch plays.
His basketball instincts took over. He's from Tampa, right? Played some basketball, averaged 20 points per game a couple of years. So yeah, that always helps when you have a tight end who played basketball. I love that. Another name to watch out for, there's Josh Cameron in the punt return department, 21 yards per punt. Is that correct?
Oh yeah,
Zach?
Yeah, he is he's their leading receiver, and if he's probably one of the best punt returners in the country, and this kid is another kid that has, like Sawyer, like so many people on this team, that has worked their way up, and this kid is a former walk-on. He didn't have any or college recruits, college offers coming out of high school, and he has just worked his way into being not only Baylor's top receiver, who can pretty much catch anything Sawyer throws around him, but an elite punt returner. And I know that there's some fear that he's going to get hurt on punt returns, but he's so good at it that you just can't take him off of it. And that's such a weapon for Baylor. If they can get a little closer, that's 10 less yards that the offense has to do, and they can pick up yards in bunches. So yeah, Josh Cameron is a real weapon, and just another all-around good dude too.
Yeah, when you look at the number, you're thinking 21. Did they mean 12? But no, they meant 21 yards per return. That's outstanding. Yeah. The couple running backs they had together gained 1,700 yards, 18 touchdowns, 6 yards rush, Washington and Pendergrass. So they returned. That's a nice 1-2 duo.
Pendergrass is out for the year. He broke his. He had a foot injury. Just before the second scrimmage, and so right now it's just Bryson Washington. Who, he had a really big year, and so he's going to be counted on. But they've got a couple freshmen, a 4-star kid, Caden Knighton from Oklahoma, Oklahoma City, I think he's from. And they're really high on him. And then another kid, Joseph Dodds, another 4-star, who is a redshirt freshman coming back from an injury last year. But Dawson Pendergrass is out for the year. But if there's one position, like Dave Aranda was telling us at the end of the last scrimmage they had on Friday, if there's one position where a freshman can play, it's probably running back, and they've got kind of a stable of young freshman running back that kind of fill in that gap.
Yeah. The remaining about 2.5 minutes, Zach, what can we say about the defense? Some of the playmakers, the defensive line, linebackers, and the secondary, just like I say, about 2 minutes.
Yep. I mean, the name you got to know is Keaton Thomas. He's the middle linebacker, and he is just, relentless kind of going to pursue, tackle. I think he ranked 25th in the nation in tackles last year. And then another guy right next to him is Travion Barnes. He's a transfer from Florida International, was the Conference USA Player of the Year, and we haven't seen him play yet on the field, but the prospect of those two in the middle, I think that can cause a lot of havoc for anyone they're going to play. So that, and then there's a bunch of new players in the secondary, but there's a lot of new names, so there's a lot of questions there. But
yeah, 2 tackling machines, those linebackers. Looking at the numbers, 129 tackles by the transfer from Florida International, and Keaton was the leading tackler last year, all Big 12. So the defensive backs, is that a strong unit for them, Zach? Defensive backs.
It is not. That was the big after the Texas Bowl where LSU kind of threw it all over the yard against them.
Right.
Dave Aranda specifically called out the defensive backs and said, "Hey, this is where we need to get better, and this is where we need to attack." So I think they signed 21. They brought in 21 new transfers. A full quarter of those, 25%, are in the defensive backfield. And so they really hit the portal hard. They brought in
Yeah.
some really key guys who are going to play some big minutes. And, I think they're going to be improved. Dave Aranda is a
Right.
capable defensive coordinator, but
Yes, he is.
we have to see it. And, we can think and hope all we want, but we kind of have to see it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And if it's a tight ball game, can the kicker do something for them? He's a pretty good kicker.
We don't know. That's another they're
Another question
replacing the
mark.
kicker.
Replacing the kicker. Okay.
They have one kid that came back, but they did sign one of the top kickers in the country. His name is Rhett Armstrong from Colorado. He kicked a 72-yarder in high school, and so he's got
Only
a huge
72
leg.
yards.
But he's a true freshman. So
Yeah.
there's some questions there. So
If
it's a tight game, I don't know. I think Baylor fans are going to be nervous if they have to come down to that, just because we don't know. We don't know.
Right.
But
Hey, you got a good ball game to open up the season on a Friday night, one of the better games that evening. Zach Smith, the Waco Tribune-Herald. Check him out. We want to thank him for being a guest on AP As We See It. We want to thank our sponsors, Greer's Markets, and remember, Greer's got it. They guarantee it. And also the Cortland Grand Hotel, downtown Atlanta. And thank you for listening to another episode of AP As We See It. And we'll see you next week. And thank you very much to our guests, Zach Smith and Jeff Culhane.